Hello, I'm Denis Greene, President of Church Development and founder of the Stewardship System. Our organization exists to help churches build a culture of generosity, and we've helped more than 200 churches raise more than $200 million for ministry expansion since 1992. Thank you for partnering with us in ministry through the Stewardship System. In today's video, I want to share with you about the importance of the strategic planning process for your church. Jesus said in Luke 14:28, "Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it?" In this verse, the Lord clearly teaches the importance of the principle of planning for the future. By following the strategic planning process I'll lay out for you, you'll be able to better engage your people and help them own the vision of your church. Let me begin by defining two key terms. Number one is vision, and number two is strategic planning. Your church's vision is a description of where your people envision the church to be in 5 years, operating at its ideal level. A vision is a dream of the possibilities. Most vision statements in today's world go out no more than 3 to 5 years because culture tends to change so rapidly now. The 10 or 25-year plan is the thing of the past. Second, strategic planning is the process by which decisions are made so you will reach your vision. Strategies and tactics are mapped out so that you can get from where you are now to where you want to be in your ideal vision. Strategic planning is the how-to of getting from here to there. Vision casting is obviously not a new concept. In Proverbs 29, it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." People must have something to shoot for, or they become complacent and unmotivated. So this scripture is vitally important to any church's stewardship effort. No one wants to give to an organization that has no direction or a compelling vision. In an effort to help churches in the area of planning, I borrowed everything I can from the corporate sector so that your church can become more effective. In his book, Good to Great, author Jim Collins and his Stanford researchers examined 1,400 publicly traded companies between the years of 1965 and 2000. After analyzing the data, he came up with the top 11, and he sought to understand why they outperformed other companies by a factor of 8 to 1. Collins found that the most successful companies were very good at defining their vision, and he gave this process a funny and memorable name, BHAG, which stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. These goals describe the vision or the ideal state of the organization. Therefore, the most successful churches should also have some BHAG, or a Big, Hairy, Audacious goal for serving God. Your pastor is similar to the CEO and must cast that vision to inspire and motivate people to meet those big goals. A second key insight comes from leadership guru Warren Bennis, who did a longitudinal study on what makes great leaders great. He discovered 3 keys. Number one, great leaders are facilitators of the visioning process, as opposed to being like General Patton, who just rides in and tells everyone what to do and how to do it. Great leaders work to engage people in the visioning process. They facilitate what the larger group is thinking and drawn towards. Number 2, great leaders do an exceptional job of articulating or casting that vision. Not only are they great leaders and good at vision casting, they do it at every opportunity. And third, Bennis discovered that great leaders help everyone find their place in the vision. Those who are servants, those who can get their people involved and passionate about the vision, in this case of the local church. Hopefully these insights into leadership and vision will help your church's strategic planning process. Tom Rainer, in his book on effective churches, Breakout Churches, actually borrowed the research methodology from Good to Great and applied it to the church world to discover what works. Well, guess what he discovered? Breakout churches actually have a clearly articulated vision. They're good at implementing a strategic plan. Let's take a look at the 5 core components of a strategic planning process so that you can get started in your church. Number 1, internal and external analysis. Number 2, dialogue and feedback. Number 3, mission and vision statements. Number 4, goal setting and defining objectives. And number 5, strategies and tactics. At each step of the process, you want to engage your people and include them in the planning and dialogue. Step number 1, strategic planning. You'll begin by assessing the environment in which your church operates. This would include an internal assessment of your strengths and weaknesses, of staff, financial position, and current position in relation to other churches in your area. You'll look at the overall condition of the church in this phase. With your external assessment, you'll look at the forces operating outside of the church that will affect your ministry, including threats or competition. Whether we like it or not, we've got to deal with these forces. Church trends, technology, other churches in the area are three factors that you ought to consider. Perhaps one of the biggest factors affecting churches right now is the decline of denominationalism. If a person was born a Methodist, they won't necessarily attend a Methodist church as an adult. People have been leaving mainline churches in droves for the last 20 years. Depending on your denomination or affiliation, you'll need a strategic plan to address this trend. A second environmental force affecting your churches is the rapid change in technology and how this affects how we do church. To demonstrate, I want to pose a question to you. How are you communicating with your people who are age 35 or younger? If you want to connect with this group, the best way to reach them is through text messaging. Since I'm a bit over 35, I'm trying to get up to speed on texting, so I'm learning how to send text messages en masse. So if your church wants to remain relevant and connected to younger generations, you've got to learn how to communicate with them, like through mass text messages, so that you can connect with them and serve them. So you need to look at social technologies, economic, political forces that will influence your ministry. Next, you'll need to engage your people, everyone, in a dialogue and obtain their feedback based on the information you discover in step one. Additionally, you want to ask the church to weigh in on your purpose, mission, ministries, and the reason that you exist. What values do you want to live out as a church? All of this information and input should coalesce in step three with an exercise where you craft a specific mission and vision statement. You certainly don't want to complete the writing of your statements by committee. Here, just have a few key members work on writing that mission and vision statement. They need to take a survey or have a forum where you can decide on which statement best fits your church. Then your governing body can make a final vote. In step four, you'll want to set goals and define objectives based on the mission and vision for your church. In this phase, you'll need to make deliberate choices about the ministries or services that you'll offer through your church. This step should be very deliberate, including a cost-benefit analysis for all ministries. You need to clearly answer this question: what's the best thing we do, and how should we deliver it in light of our mission? You'll set specific ministry goals at this phase and map out clear objectives for each ministry. We're getting much more detailed and specific at this stage. To keep it manageable, you may want to set no more than 3 to 5 congregational goals. Each ministry you choose to run in support of your mission should publish several clear and measurable objectives. Our objectives are more specific in nature and supportive of the goal. They bring into even greater focus the outcomes of the organization. But don't forget to engage the Holy Spirit in the process. You've got to be flexible enough to adjust your efforts if God is leading you. The fifth and final step in the planning process is to develop strategies and tactics. They define how the goals and objectives are going to be achieved. While not all strategic plans include tactics, a good strategic plan will include at least the key tactics thought to be important to supporting the strategies you develop. Generally, tactics are more fully developed and added to the plan as time goes on. Tactics are the specific tasks associated with carrying out strategies. A comprehensive strategic planning process takes 3 to 6 months to complete. You'll need a committee to run the process with 5 to 7 people. It's often a subset of your board or council. At various stages, you're going to want to have town hall meetings to gather input from your whole church body. You could use surveys at each step of the process. In order to do a good job of communicating with your people, you'll also want to do a newsletter at the beginning of the process to let people know that you're beginning the strategic planning process, and a follow-up newsletter to articulate your vision, goals, and strategy. One suggestion I would make to improve your planning process is to retain a professional facilitator to help you with your corporate feedback gathering sessions. We hire an external facilitator at my home church, and they really help to move things along quickly and smoothly. This is what they do, and they're good at it. They'll be a blessing to your church. If you need help finding a facilitator, please call me at the number listed at the end of the video, and I'll be happy to give you a referral. Another recommendation is that you complete the strategic planning process before you ever do a capital campaign. This will help you build a consensus around the direction upon which you'll be moving your church prior to the challenge of a capital campaign. You may not even wind up doing the campaign, but the planning process will have a positive effect on generosity. Let me share an example of a success story which highlights this point. At Presentation Catholic Church in Lee Summit, Missouri, they sought to create a vision for their church. They invited everyone in the church to one of a series of town hall meetings that took place after worship over the course of a month. They bought everyone a sandwich and asked them 2 questions. Number 1, what's your vision for our church? And number 2, what are your short-term priorities? Just 2 simple questions. They brought in a professional facilitator who helped them achieve consensus. What they learned was the key goal in the minds of most people was to pay down their debt. They did not do a capital campaign. They did not even ask people to start giving. However, giving went up 15% in 1 year and stayed at that level because people felt so passionately about paying down the debt. Fulfilling that goal was a fulfillment of their vision. A second great strategic planning example comes from First Presbyterian Church in Paola. First was in the midst of a transition. They had a young pastor with lots of new families who were looking at a church that was a bit different from the traditional Presbyterian church. As a result, they had to define who they were, which included a new vision, a new mission, and a complete facility change. As of today, they've now gone through 4 capital campaigns, and they moved into their new building, and they have a new name, a new look, a new brand, and a new feel. Guess what? They are growing because their changes were based on consensus around the new vision. It's exciting to be part of a church that has a planning process with an exciting vision. These are great examples of the kind of success that you can have when you create a consensus-based strategic plan. If I can be of assistance, don't hesitate to call. Good luck and God bless with your strategic planning.